Good. So we're recording now, Matt. So yeah, so I'm joined today with Matt Larsson-Clifford from Sweden Outdoors Coaching. We're going to have a little bit of a chat about MyAgoge, PQ Performance, but specifically we're going to chat about the two trips that we're kind of running, the winter and the summer version. So obviously we might as well start in the winter for obvious reasons. So just to explain where you are and kind of what you're up to right now, if you could, Matt.
Yeah, hi Phil, hi everybody. I'm just about I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes walk from our farm where we would run the winter MyAgoge, up in our forest. Just decided to take a little walk up here today, stunning conditions, and have a little bit of a coffee break up here rather than sat around the kitchen table. I've got my fire going there. I've got my coffee pot on there. I'm going to pour that in a minute and have some proper cowboy coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, just to kind of expand on what we're looking to do. These trips, both summer and winter. So the summer one is a canoe trip, a kind of a sort of 90 to 100-kilometer canoe trip, depending on length. It could be between 80 and 120, depending on what route we go with. And then the winter one will be snowshoeing, staying in some teepees, learning bushcraft on both winter and summer. What sort of experience levels do people need before they come on either of those trips, would you say?
I think they just need an open mind, to be quite honest. You know, the trips that we want to run are orientated to people that are interested, open-minded, have a spirit of adventure. There's no prior skills required for them to come. I think, as we discussed, what we would do is we would offer them some sort of pre-trip meetings via Zoom, where we could talk about equipment and any sort of preparation that they would need to do. But essentially, the trip should be completely open-ended to anybody that's inquisitive and wonders what it's like to come and spend some time in these sort of conditions, or indeed in the summer in sort of on a wilderness open canoe trip. Yeah, I don't think we've not closed the door to anybody.
Yeah, and I think that for me that's like massively important, that both trips, both the winter and the summer, are open to people that have never canoed or never been in the winter environment. It's not about having lots of experience and doing going up to the top of mountains in the winter. This is about learning how to not just, which is one of the things I love about what you do, which I think is in line with kind of like the Ray Mears sort of school of living in the outdoors. It's not about surviving. It's about thriving in that environment and learning how you can actually be relatively comfortable and not just be trying to survive in the extremes.
No, absolutely. And while you mention that, actually, so that I can thrive, I'm just going to pour myself a coffee. So I've got some what we call cowboy coffee cooking on the fire here, which I'm just going to pour. You can see that coming out. Well, that's good, doesn't it? Proper rocket fuel. I'm going to have a swig of that. Cheers.
Did you make that cup as well? Was that one that you bought or made?
Yeah, that's a made cup, and one of the things that we get to do on these trips is to, I won't say play around with knives, but learn to handle knives correctly, and explore different techniques which will allow us to carve utensils that could be useful to us out here. So everybody should at least leave with a butter knife and maybe a spoon, and those are a little bit more interested. If they've got the time and the effort to put in, can make a courser like that. There's no boundaries there.
And I think for me, and I suppose for a lot of people that will watch it, this will be posted on the PQ Performance and the MyAgoge Facebook groups, and also perhaps on Instagram and some other channels. I think the interesting thing is the year that we've just had, 2020, that needs no introduction as a year. It kind of resonates with a lot of people that I speak to about these trips, that during these kind of lockdown periods, of which we're living through right now in the UK, that spirit of adventure that you mentioned, that learning how to make fire, that learning how to push yourself, undertake a trip that perhaps you wouldn't have done before 2020, but now post 2020, I think there's been a paradigm shift, and lots of people that I speak to, And I think you could probably expand a little bit on what you might get out of either the winter and the summer trip. Given how many that you've run out there already over the last 4 or 5, well, longer than that. How long have you been out in Sweden now? 7.
Well, this is the 8th year out
8.
in Sweden. Yeah, yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right with the whole C word and the issues that it's created for people and is continuing to do. I think people have realised that actually being locked down and being restricted from movement, being restricted from opportunities to be outdoors, is perhaps a bigger thing than they realise, and perhaps it's something that they're taken for granted. That freedom being taken away has been a massive thing for people. And it doesn't matter, okay, being locked down in a nice house with all your things around you, great, but actually things don't really mean anything after a while. It's the freedom to experience nature, the freedom to experience, to have new experiences, new challenges, I think is something that people are going to be yearning after the last year and indeed the months going. And I think people are really going to be craving different experiences that of things that they perhaps wouldn't have wanted before, because they would have perhaps just maintained their normal status quo, their normal lifestyle. So if we turn COVID into a positive, it might have been an awakening moment for a lot of people to actually realize, hey, do you know what? I need to do something which is going to challenge me and let me perhaps explore my life, explore myself a bit more than I'm currently doing.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. Certainly from my experience over the last year, talking to lots of people that I work with and coach, that. I mean, it's interesting to think like pre-COVID. If we look at, like, say for instance, we look at the summer trip, which I know is kind of weird to talk about in this environment, but the summer canoe trip, I've run it numerous times with you, and you've run it, dozens and dozens of times now. But one of the things that I always loved about that trip is the detachment from phones and social media and technology. At first, it was very uneasy for some people. Some people, they feel as though they've lost an arm when you take the phone off them or ask them to go without their phone. But by the end of the trip, it's phenomenal to see where they're at in terms of, a lot of them don't want it back to begin with. They kind of like, I've gotten so used to not having alerts going and pings going and that kind of just being present in the environment. And I think that's a good analogy for where people are going to be at, I think, coming out of 2020 in terms of detaching a little bit.
Yeah, and of course it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because of being locked down, people have more time to be on social media, to watch the news more frequently, to be sucked into that, and I'm guilty of that as well. You just you just get sucked into the whole media hype. Okay, we need to know what's going on, but living your life minute by minute of what's happening in the news, it's perhaps not very healthy. And we've both experienced that. People have been on certainly the canoe trips before, where exactly as you say, they've been uncomfortable with not having their phone. But towards the end of the trip, and actually indeed at the end, when we sort of do a bit of an end of trip feedback session, quite often some of the highlights of the trip for them has been overcoming that initial challenge of not having their phone and reflecting and thinking, do you know what, actually that was so good. I feel so relaxed. The fact that I didn't really know what the time was and I didn't continually to check my social media, I didn't check my emails, and it was absolutely brilliant. So yeah, absolutely. Both the summer and the winter trips offer that. And I think that almost goes hand in hand with that sort of wilderness feeling that people sort of take away. The big takeaway from these sort of trips and experiences is the ability to disconnect, is the ability to be mindful, because essentially everything we're doing here is mindful, if you want to label it in terms of getting a fire going, considering what are the three elements of constituent elements of making a fire are not working. Why can't we get, that's all mindful, isn't it? It's all mindfulness. Paddling a boat, making it go in a straight line, all getting shelters up, it's all in the moment, and it's all real time. So I think that's one of the things I really like and think people take away from the whole sort of experience, whether it's summer or winter. Got to change the ham. This one's getting a bit cold.
Yeah. So and obviously what we're going to look to do in both is you to provide your specialist skill set. You know, teaching people to open canoe, teaching people about bushcraft, about living in this environment. I'm going to do some of the mindset stuff, where we ran the campfire. We do some not so much planned and structured coaching, but it will be kind of just spontaneous and what happens. And then hopefully in the winter one, which will be next January, we'll come on to the dates at the end. Next January, hopefully, obviously, we've chatted with Ian about being able to hopefully work Ian in to come out and do some of the Wim Hof breathing stuff, and obviously you're in a great environment to do Wim Hof cold water stuff, aren't you?
Turn around. I'm not sure if in the distance, probably above my head now, you can see sort of a white line.
Yeah.
Well, that is the river just below the farm, and that's where we cut the hole in the ice to go and do all of that. I mean, previously. We've used it for basically ice breaking drills, how to remove yourself from the ice, but we can turn it on its head and use it for Ian's Wim Hof techniques and all of that good stuff. So yeah, that's just down below the farm from where we would run the course, and I'm about half an hour, 40 minutes walk up in the forest as well. So everything is done. Once we get to the farm, that's it. You know, we don't need to do any more driving around. It's all very accessible.
Amazing.
And all white.
Yeah. Did I see that you encountered reindeer the other week? Was that on social media?
Yeah. There was I was just out for a run before we sort of got the big snowfall, and basically that's right. Basically, we got the Sami have moved. The Sami, the owners of the reindeer, have moved some reindeer down here. I think there's about 800 somewhere around in the forest. But I was out for a run, and there was 100 that just ran across in front of me. So that was pretty Christmassy.
Amazing. Great. So I won't keep you too long. So obviously it is. I know it's cold there, and you need to get back at some point. So looking at the dates. The summer trips, we've got 2 weeks planned in July, the first 2 weeks of July. I think it's commencing from like the 4th of July to the 10th, and then the 10th to the 16th with the switch around of the two groups. And that'll be the Harken River canoe bushcraft mindset trip, with some other stuff that we include in there. And then we're looking at next January for our first winter trips now, obviously because of COVID, and we've kind of, I mean, we've spoke so many times this year about trying to get a week in. Firstly, it was through the summer canoeing, and COVID just evaporated that. I'm supposed to be out there kind of in a few weeks, aren't I, doing this very trip that we've talked about. Once again, COVID has defeated us. But I do think that July, I think we'll definitely go ahead without a doubt. And I think without a shadow of a doubt, next January we'll be rolling at full speed by then.
Great. Yeah.
So for anyone watching this, it's interested in either of those trips, the 2 weeks, the 2 1-week expeditions we've got in the summer, or the 2 1-week expeditions we're going to have next January, just to drop a message, whether this be on Facebook or Instagram or whatever platform, and then we'll start having those conversations about just letting people know what the trip is with a bit more detail, I suppose. And as time goes on, we'll do a few more of these videos and talk about the trips in more detail, perhaps.
Yeah, that would be good. I could perhaps take myself off to some different parts of the forest. You know, this is one area we use. It's a lovely view. Nice to have a fire and a coffee here. But I could perhaps go to the location where we've used previously for shelters. Some of the shelters that we've built over the years, they're still standing. So that'd be kind of fun to see with the guys, for people to see, you know, what sort of shelters that we can make and how we can sort of things we can do to make ourselves comfortable and thrive out here.
Amazing. Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot for your time. It's been great chatting. And like I say, anyone that's interested, just drop any comments, and then we'll pick those discussions up further.
Great to see you. Cheers, Phil.